Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everyone is fed and refreshed. Please make your way to your seats. We're about to begin our program. So grace has been said, welcoming has been said. There is an African tradition of calling the names of our ancestors. So just for a moment, please reflect on someone in your life or in your family that is of African descent that is no longer with us. And in about 5 seconds, we will collectively say their name out loud. One, two, three, 4, 5. Elizabeth Hill. Thank you. That is a method of invoking our ancestors into our program. I would like to now introduce Michael Lord, who is the person that made this space possible for us. Michael has also provided staff in each of the rooms for when we do our walking tours. And he is, I don't know his title, but he will come up here and introduce himself. But he's one of the men who made this happen for us, Michael Lord.
I guess I got to get my title now, huh? Well, to the Westchester Women's Agenda, here to Tasha, Carla, Monica, all the work that had gone into this morning. To our honored guests, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Senator Shelley Mayer. Nice to have them in the front row. Let me start with Akwaba. Akwaba, in the Twi language of the Akan people currently in Ghana, Akwaba means welcome. I want to say welcome to everybody here to Phillips Manor Hall State Historic Site. Happy Independence Day on this fine Juneteenth morning. As Tasha said, I'm Michael Lord. I am the site director here at Phillips Manor Hall State Historic Site, here in beautiful downtown Yonkers. All right, thank you. How many folks have been to Phillips Manor Hall before? All right, that's a nice number. And for those of you who haven't, again, Akwaba, thank you for coming. And I want to let you know that here at Phillips Manor Hall, we predate Juneteenth by about 200 years or so. We predate Yonkers as you know it today. This site has been here since the 1680s, so however long that is, 340 years, I guess? It's a long time. We've been open to the public since 1911 as a museum, yet we recently reopened about 18 months ago with a new story focusing on our whole history. Stories that look at the Munsee Lenape, who were partners in the Phillips' early years during the fur trade. Stories that look at the enslaved community here at Phillips Manor Hall and in New York in general. In fact, Phillips Manor Hall, which should be surprising here, was really the site of what is arguably America's first Emancipation Proclamation. It was issued in 1779 during the American Revolution by Sir Henry Clinton. He was Commander-in-Chief of His Majesty's forces, so he was the guy on the British side of the war. Now that summer of 1779, Henry Clinton was using Phillips Manor Hall as a headquarters, essentially, for some skirmishes he's fighting a little bit farther north here in Westchester. While he was here, Clinton penned what became known as the Phillipsburg Proclamation, which promised freedom to any man, woman, or child who were enslaved by a rebel or patriot, essentially, if they could find their way to British lands. This greatly expanded Lord Dunmore's proclamation from a few years earlier, which promised freedom only to enslaved men who could fight for the British. The Phillipsburg Proclamation allowed families to seek freedom together. And despite losing the war, you guys know the British lost the war. Okay, despite losing the war, the British kept their promise. And at the end of the war in 1783, as the British were evacuating New York, Boston, Charleston, they took thousands of formerly enslaved men, women, and children with them, freed them, and settled many of them in Nova Scotia. It's a very large black population in and around Halifax, Birchtown area in Nova Scotia. Most of those individuals are the descendants of freedom seekers who came through Westchester, through these areas down to New York City, and were sent by the British to Nova Scotia. An estimated 3,500 may have left from New York City alone. So, choosing freedom and independence sometimes means choosing the side of the British, if you think of it that way. And thanks in part also to the Phillipsburg Proclamation, which you can see a copy of it in our exhibit downstairs, if you have an opportunity to take a look around today as well. So this morning we are gathered to commemorate and pay respect to the 159th anniversary of Juneteenth. And in 11 days, on June 30th, Phillips Manor Hall is going to commemorate the 245th anniversary of the Phillipsburg Proclamation. So it's history. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. I want to thank you for coming here today. Appreciate the wonderful attendance. We will be open for people who wish to take a look around after the presentations today and after your breakfast. And a nice shout out to Off the Hook. They are a very local restaurant. They do the catering today. Fish cakes and grits and hush puppies. You can't go wrong. Thanks folks for coming today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. So then, microphone. Good morning. My name's Kate Permit, and I'm the chair of the Westchester's Women's Agenda, welcoming you to our third annual Juneteenth celebration and legislative event. Briefly, I want to tell those who may not know about the Westchester Women's Agenda. We are a many adjective, anti-racist, feminist, all-volunteer, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, and we advocate on behalf of women in Westchester County. We've been around for nearly 30 years. We are a coalition of about 40 nonprofits, over 110 individuals, and we work together on one mission to improve the lives of women in Westchester by advancing racial, economic, social equity, and justice for all. We do this through education, research, and communications, and events such as this, and we want to promote policies that really create real change in women's lives. Right now, we're about 10 years into a real anti-racist advocacy program that's changed some of our directions and intentionality in how we do our programs. In 2021, we actively asked Westchester County to join GARE, which is a government alliance on race and equity, a network of regional governments that advocate racial equity in their policies and how they undertake their work. In 2022, our every 5-year research report that we do on the status of women in Westchester took a more focused approach to data, and using an anti-racist lens really saw the disparities that exist in the county. On average, can mask where there really exist differences in our different communities and how women are doing. So then came Juneteenth as well, and we started on this path of having events where we don't take the day off, we take the day on, and we work hard on Juneteenth to have deep discussions about what does Juneteenth mean to us, what's the road to repair, and then today we want to further our conversation about policies that can make real change in our communities. So let me me introduce Monica Spears, who's the chair of our Public Policy Committee, who can tell you a little bit more. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As Kate said, I'm Monica Spears. I'm happy to say that I've been a member of the Westchester Women's Agenda for a number of years, and this is my first year as chair of the Public Policy Committee. But welcome to these festivities. We're so glad that you could join us. But the Westchester Women's Agenda's Juneteenth legislative and educational event holds significant importance as it serves to educate the community about the historical and cultural relevance of Juneteenth. This event fosters a deeper understanding of the day that commemorates the emancipation of enslaved Africans in the United States, specifically marking the announcement of delayed freedom in Texas in June 19, 1865. By highlighting the struggles and achievements of African Americans, the event promotes awareness and reflection of the long journey toward equality and justice, very important. And this is crucial for fostering a more inclusive and informed society. I think it was our very own event organizer, Tasha Young. Tasha's here someplace, I just saw her, she disappeared. And I think it was our very own event organizer, Tasha Young, who commented that the creation of Juneteenth as a federal holiday is a significant policy achievement in its own right. And I could not agree with her more. This move symbolizes that a national acknowledgement of the importance of Juneteenth and the history it represents. It reflects a commitment to recognize and honor the struggles and contributions of African Americans, promoting greater awareness and understanding. By instituting this holiday, the government has taken a crucial step towards fostering a more inclusive and reflective society, providing an opportunity for so much education and celebration and meaningful dialogue among people all across this nation. But moreover, this event for us, for Juneteenth here with YWCA, it underscores our ongoing commitment, as Kate said, to addressing racial inequities and supporting marginalized communities. It's very, very important. This event becomes a catalyst, in other words, for conversations about all of those subjects, race and freedom, and combating systemic racism, which is a big platform part of YWCA. So thank you all for joining us here today. And I also have the pleasure of recognizing some of the elected officials who are with us today. So I will just take a minute and ask them to wave or to stand, and please give a warm welcome to Senator Shelley Mayer. I know that we were supposed to have a couple of county legislators that are registered. I'm not sure if they're in the room. Legislator Erica Pierce? No? Legislator Shanae Williams? Not here yet? Okay. And then, of course, Legislator Emiliana Ulage. Is she here? Emiliana. I'm sorry? Oh, I can't hear what.
Assemblyman Steve Otis.
Oh,
Assemblyman.
Assemblyman. Oh, thank you so much. Steve Otis. And we'd just like to say for Legislator Ulage, we're so thankful because we just want to give some sincere thanks to her because she provided a contribution to help YWCA access this beautiful space. So thank you so much to her. Okay, now it is my honor to introduce our next speaker. One of my favorite things about her is that in her early career, she was an educator here in Yonkers. I absolutely love that. I love teachers. But currently, she holds the position of President pro tempore, and and she's the majority, of course, the majority leader of the New York State Senate. She's also the senator for our own 35th district right here. She is the longest serving Democratic majority leader in the history of New York State Senate. Absolutely. And she's not only the first woman, but the first African American woman to occupy that role. Her tenure is distinguished by significant legislative achievements and a steadfast commitment to addressing all of the needs of New Yorkers. So we absolutely love her. Please help me welcome Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
So good morning. Good morning. It is good to be here, and thank you, Monica, for the generous introduction, and thank you, Kate, for hosting WWA's Juneteenth event right here in Phillips Manor Hall. What an important place to really have this conversation. And I'm looking forward to the panel discussion with Tasha and Tiffany and Raya. And you know, it's amazing where we are today. I am in this place when I first started in government, city government, in 1992. One of the first things that the mayor then, Mayor Zaleski, who recruited me into government, asked me to do was to be part of a coalition that would save this place. Wow. This place was lying, unrecognized, nobody cared, and when the state looked around at its properties, it decided that Phillips Manor Hall, in the heart of this largely black community, was of no interest, and therefore they would defund it and close it. So, the mayor asked me, I was director of community affairs, to join a coalition, and the coalition was multiracial, east side, west side, fighting to keep this hall. So to now be here in a place, oh, the other thing I will tell you, when I first came to tour Phillips Manor Hall, they showed me all the rooms, does not look anything like this. I'm happy to say that the state has invested largely, significantly, millions of dollars to upgrade this hall. Thank you, Michael, for being, if you're, you know, that person who makes sure that it all goes well. But when I came and they showed us the different rooms, they showed me the servants' quarters. The servants' quarters. It wasn't until years later that people identified this as the slaves' quarters, not the servants' quarters. That's what this is always about. It's about telling the story in the way that it needs to be told, with the information that people need in order to understand the circumstances in which we live. I didn't know when I first showed up here in government that this was an important slave holders' premises where all of the economy, the commerce, and everything coming from here, Phillipsburg Manor, the Phillipses, what they did, who knew? Does it alter the way I feel about this place? Yes. Is it a place that, yes, we were able to save, yes, we were able to invest in, and for the longest time, there were the stories and, you know, the Phillips. It is just now in the telling our whole story emphasis that the exhibits that you will see downstairs really pays homage to the people who were part of the story, all the people. It's because people are willing to examine their roots, their past, and it's because people are courageous enough to ask for changes to be made in policy, in conversations, and it's because in those changes, we are able to emerge, I believe, better. But for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I don't think there's any doubt that as this whole evolution of storytelling is happening on a national level, on an international level, everywhere, there's pushback and blowback about the way the stories are told, who tells them, whose stories are important. All of our stories are important. All of our stories are credible. All of our stories need to be told. I am so happy that I live in a community where we can come together on days like this in the true spirit of what this means to talk amongst ourselves, share our stories, and uplift culturally each other at our various festival points or various low points. We don't have to learn a lot of people and a lot of cultures here. We are here. But because we are here, and because we have that opportunity, we also have the responsibility of making sure that we are not cowering when people tell the wrong stories about people that we know better about. Educate yourselves. Be strong. Be courageous. Do the right thing. Because the reality is, as you heard about the Emancipation Proclamation, yeah, there was, you can be free if you'll do this, or you can be free if you're in those rebel territories, or the 13th Amendment says that you're free. Freedom without justice, without equality, is just one piece of what we know as human beings we need to have. We are still on this long road to equality. We are still on this long road to justice, but we are so much farther advanced. The fact that I'm here, standing here, head of the Senate, first woman, first black woman, we just, you know, we've got doctors, executive directors, people who are doing amazing things because our consciousness changed and people were courageous enough to do the legislative work to make these things happen. But it was not that long ago that my peers, myself, my parents had no opportunities in my lifetime. Don't think that 50 years of nonchalance, 50 years of rolling back, 50 years of pretending it's all okay, that we can't go back to exactly where we don't want to be. In fact, there are people who remember how great it was, I'm just saying, how great America was just 50, 60 years ago. People today in Congress who are telling black people who are saying Jim Crow, not that bad. Don't think you can sleep this. You're already fighting for your reproductive rights, and yes, we're going to have ERA on the ballot, yes, in November. We're already fighting women for our reproductive rights. People are fighting for their voting rights. Do not sleep the moment that we are in. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Majority Leader Stewart-Cousins. I now want to introduce Kimberly McNair. Last year, we gave you a timeline of racial equity. Last year, we gave a timeline of race equity. It can be found on our website because when I was an early member of WWA, at every meeting that we had at the Westchester Women's Agenda, we would have a moment of reflection on what are we doing toward racial equity. So last year we gave the timeline of how far we have come, and we are continuing in that effort. I also want to thank WWA for being courageous. And when we speak about racial equity, it is for every race that has been put on the margin. Since coming to not NWA, I am a product of the 90s. Since coming to WWA, I am proud to say I have learned about land acknowledgement for indigenous people. I have learned about the Asian American Pacific Islander presence and the history. And of course, we very often and all the time speak about the presence of people who have descended from slavery, not only in this country, but also from the Caribbean, South and Central America. When we talk about Juneteenth, there are two forks. One is cash reparations, which we do in this event. We talk about cash reparations as it relates to the celebration of Juneteenth for African American descendants of slavery. Reparations now. We also acknowledge that everybody Black in America experiences discrimination and racism. So there is also discussions around how do we talk about reparations for people that come from the Caribbean experience that now are living in America, and people who are from the continent that live in America and also experience policies that are discriminatory and racist. So I want to keep that in mind because a people united can never be defeated. And African Americans and all Black people in this country experience policies that prevent them from living out the American dream: freedom, liberty, and justice for all. So I just wanted to give that historical insert. And we will hear from Kimberly later when she will talk about her historical addition to the program. So at this time, I would like to introduce and acknowledge some other elected officials that just walked in. I would like to acknowledge Shanae Williams, county legislator. Thank you so much for being here. And I would also like to recognize Lisa Nero, who is Greenberg's town clerk. A member of the Juneteenth committee. She has been with us now for 3 years, and she will also be our next speaker.
my handouts are given out. I would like the president of the WWA to come up. And of course, Tasha. Yeah, no, it's okay. Thank you. Tasha. Oh, she's talking to Majority Leader. Board of Executives. Kate. Yes. And just, that would be great. I had the task and was unfortunately we were unable to have Governor Hochul here this morning, so she in her stead sent a proclamation to the whereas this New York State joins to commemorate the 159th anniversary of Juneteenth, which symbolizes what the 4th of July means to all Americans, liberty and freedom. Juneteenth serves as a historical milestone, reminding Americans of the struggle for freedom and the triumph of human spirit over the inhumane legacy of slavery. And whereas Juneteenth not only serves as a day to recognize the emancipation of African Americans, but it is the opportunity for self-reflection on the persuasive systemic injustices that still exist within our society and that we must continue to work together to overcome. It is a day to reflect on and value the great contributions made by the African American community following their freedom in these United States, despite barriers and hardships they continue to face. And whereas New York State abolished slavery in 1827, the news of the liberation came to Texas more than 2 years later after President Abraham Lincoln Emancipation Proclamation went into effect on January 1st, 1863. African Americans across the state were made aware of their right for freedom on June 19th, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston with federal troops to read General Order Number 3, announcing the end of the Civil War and that all enslaved people were free, as well as to maintain a presence in Texas for the purpose of enforcement of emancipation amongst slave owners throughout the state. And there are a few other whereases, but therefore now I, Kathy Hochul, Governor of New York State, of New York, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2024 as in the Empire State, given under my Juneteenth, given under my hand and the privy seal of the state and the capital of the city of Albany this 13th day of June on the year 2024. Signed, Kathy Hochul, and of course, Secretary to the Governor, Karen Keel. And this was delivered, actually, picked up in Queens, from our correspondent, our liaison, my longtime friend, Jessica Douglas. So please give her a round of applause because she was the one that made this happen in her stead. And again, I just wanted to present this to you because of all the work that you've done. And I do have a certificate of merit for Tasha from my office. And just because of the work that you're doing, it's so important. I want to thank Tasha because Tasha really was the one was like, Lisa, you're leading your dissertation on reparations. She is the one who hooked me up with Representative Bowman, who then opened many doors for me to start my research. So, hats off. But again, thank you so much. And now I'll go into my work, which is what I'm supposed to do.
I am so grateful to you and to all of the members. We'll thank the members later, but thank you.
I have handed out, full disclosure, I temporarily put off my dissertation while I ran for office, and I am so proud that I can now use my office to push forth this agenda. I'm a non-voting member of the board, but I know that I can push this agenda forward, and with the help of YWCA, I just thank God for them that they've been letting me use their platform to really speak on reparations. It was interesting last night, and because we're here at this this forum, one of the members of Teamsters came to me and was like, Lisa, you know, I don't understand why one of the unions, you know, has Juneteenth off and we do not. And I was like, let me get right on that. So I say all this to say that last night we had a special meeting, and this was actually a resolution that they passed last night, and it was a resolution recognizing June 19th as the town holiday for CSEA and Teamsters members, and a floating holiday for all PBA members for calendar year 2024. So let's give them a acknowledgement, because this is a fight that it should not be contractual because it's a federal holiday, but here we are. So, and again, I have to do what I can in my office, stay in my lane, but at least make sure that the people get the information. And that's what being the town clerk is, getting the information to the residents. And that's why I'm just so proud of this position. And of course, giving honor to Honorable Mayor and Honorable Majority Leader, of course, and Honorable Simra. Greetings. The bottom line, because I know my 5 minutes have been up 5 minutes ago, I just want to just bring very important points to the reparation justice. The program really serves as a barrier to heal wounds between Africans and U.S. and Africans of the continent. And this is, of course, resulting, as Majority Leader said, centuries of enslavement, cultural alienation, misinformation, and of course, technically the divide and conquer schemes. And when you're talking about research missions and educational exchanges, and we're really trying to make everything a part of this program. When my dissertation is HR 40, heal or repeal. And the reason why I called it that is because we've been trying to pass this law for 40 years. And when you look at what we are trying to do, you have to look at what the problems are. So in my dissertation, and believe it or not, it all stemmed from the NAACP National Convention in Atlantic City. And there was a resolution for reparations, and 72% said yes, 3% abstained, and 25% said no. So what I decided at that point, because I was doing reparations right at COVID, and then all of a sudden they passed the bill, and I was like, oh my God, yay, thank God, because I led on this path. But my dissertation is on why 25% of Black people do not want reparations. So if we're trying to pass this law for non-Blacks, we first have to get the rest of the blacks on board. And I was at, when I was at Black Caucus and I was at a reparations workshop last year, they were like, we can't worry about the 25%. I was just like, you do have to worry about the 25% because that 25% represents the 100% that is against reparations. So I say all this to say when we're talking about reparations and what I'm actually studying in addition to the 25%, I've also been focusing on educational reparations. As Mom always told you, education is something no one can ever take from you. So yes, there are reparations, the cash, but there's so many points in history where reparations to our indigenous brothers and sisters that money is just sitting there. So what's the sense of reparations if you cannot utilize it and have access to it? There's several theories as far as reparations, cash reparations. Is it going to be taxed? Are you really going to get it? Is it going to be 40 acres and a mule all over again? So these are all the things that I have been researching basically to get this passed. So hand of applause for New York State and Majority Leader and Governor Hochul for getting it passed in New York so we can get this here on the state level. And I will continue to work with Representative Sheila Jackson-Lee, Representative Bowman, and of course Senator Booker for getting it passed federally. When we're discussing reparations for African Americans, we are not granted a bill. I want everybody to understand that. This is simply just to do a study, and I'm talking on the federal level. So when you're just talking about the study, in the bill for the study, there's $12 million sitting there for this to move forward, for this panel to be convened, and what I have a charge to you, what are you doing to make sure that this bill goes forward? So that's my charge to you. If you read through my PowerPoint, this gives a little more detail about the timeline, what reparations have been in history, what has worked, what has not worked. And I thank you for your time. And Tasha, thank you always for the opportunity to use this platform. And thank you, YWCA. God bless you.
Thank you, Town Clerk Lisa Nero. I would like to, now that we're talking about the legislation, I would like to bring our Majority Leader back up to give us insight into the commission and how we got here together as New Yorkers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I just, thank you, Tasha. And on the program was the history of New York State's Reparations Commission. So I didn't mention anything about reparations in my first remarks because, I thought I'd have an opportunity to talk about the history. But I think Lisa, but I know Lisa was talking about the federal level and then the state level and how this happened. And this is, again, a reminder of how important state politics are. We get all focused on the federal level, but so many things happen on a state level that can either be the precursor of what's going to happen on a federal level, could be a kind of pilot for what could happen on a federal level, but states can do things just like, again, we codified Roe v. Wade before they dismantled it. The same way about early voting, rather be done on Lewis voting rights and all of, we've done that in New York State. And the reparations conversation was not an easy conversation. And You know, we could wait for the federal government to do that, but we had an opportunity to do it here. But it's important to realize that in order for us to do this, we had to have courageous people in both houses. In the Assembly, thank you to Assemblyman Otis in his house, led by Speaker Hasty, another historic figure, the first black speaker in the Assembly. And in our house, again, obviously, I have the opportunity to lead, but there are 63 senators, most of whom are not black, most of whom are not even people of color, and that is in both houses. So that's where the education comes, and that's where the information, and that's where the courage, like a person like Senator Shelley Mayer, who represents other people, but was willing, because of the understanding of the crucial aspect of acknowledging our past here in New York and beyond, and doing what was supposed to be done in terms of studying where we've been, how New York has been shaped by the slave trade, and what we can go forward. But let me tell you that this is not an easy conversation for anybody. So for all of us to get on the same page in order for us to be able to pass a bill that names people to a commission to study reparations is really an incredibly hard task that we should be very proud that we were able to do. The government, and I will tell you, I never talk about, what happens in closed conference, but there were stories in our closed conference when people were talking about reparations, black people talking about historical disadvantage, but then white colleagues who were talking about the things that they saw and did not understand. People were working in certain places, big corporations, and everybody had to start in a certain place, and everybody else would move out of that place but the black people. They didn't understand what was happening because they knew that they were moving up. However, when they started to think about the inequity of the reality for the black employees, even at a corporation where other people had upward mobility, they had to stop and think about it. People who were on trains and their dad brought them to the last car where all the black people were, and they were the maintenance or whatever they were for the train, but they always had to stay in the back car, and that was in the 1980s. People who, again, my colleagues who were white, started thinking about what had happened around them that they had ignored. And at some point, all of us collectively agreed, and it was unanimous in our conference, to make sure that we studied reparations. It is an examination of the heart. It's an examination of the intellect, and it is an examination of humanity's ability to do things that are not cool, to face themselves, and to right those wrongs. So that's what we're doing. I'm happy to say that we each, the governor, the assembly speaker, myself, had 3 appointees. My 3 appointees are Dr. Tiffany Hamilton, who is a renowned economist, works out of the New School, and will bring an economic lens to this. Dr. Chanel Hawkins, who is in, because I wanted some diversity in terms of location. Dr. Chanel Hawkins is the head of the Urban League in Rochester, and Linda Tarrant-Reed, who many of you know, who's our local historian from New Rochelle, who's done extensive work in terms of African American history. And that, along with Dr. Ron Daniels and so many other notables are on this commission. And the commission is running for 18 months. We were able to get, again, thanks to my colleagues, and I see Assemblyman Chris Burdick has joined us as well. We were able to get the commission $5 million in order to be able to do the research and the work that they need to do, and hopefully, again, create a model for not only New Yorkers, but begin a very important conversation, because this commission will go to different places so that people are at least educated, because you're right, Lisa, the 25% or the 30% that are miseducated or unaware of what any of these things are about will really sometimes, somehow get their message out a lot more than those who know what they need to know. So anyway, thank you so much for giving me the time, and I look forward to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you for the work. Thank you, Tasha.
Welcome to Chris Burdick and welcome to Steve Otis. I'm afraid to say, I think I know what's happening next.
Yeah, you're leading a panel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I would like to introduce our panelists. We will be bringing this table closer. And we do have a video from one of the panelists. So if the gentleman who is the tech person can appear, that would be wonderful. John. So I asked 2 women in the community to participate in this event for 2 different reasons. I am the descendant of, on my father's side, people who survived the Tuskegee medical experiment. Both of my great-grandfathers were mistreated medically, and the result of that legacy produced 2 different forks. So this is going to be a theme. Coming from the Jim Crow South, my grandmother and my grandfather had 2 different approaches to how to deal with racism. My grandfather was a pacifist because growing up in the Jim Crow South, that's how he survived. My grandmother was an activist. She would not accept that we would be treated as second-class citizens. And she did her activism after she raised her children in her 40s, similar to when I started my activism. And she did it in White Plains. And one of the reasons I was so interested in one of our panelists, Tiffany Hamilton, is because of a program called the Freedom Schools, which she will talk about when she comes here, because my Nana started Freedom Schools in the 60s and 70s in White Plains. So Tiffany's going to tell us all about her work battling racism and creating racial equity. The next panelist is someone who is called the Climate Auntie on social media. She is an attorney. She has started her own Law and Policy Institute centering on climate justice. And we really can't talk about Juneteenth unless we talk about the land. We were promised 40 acres and a mule upon the Emancipation Proclamation, but when President Lincoln was assassinated, his successor was a segregationist and apologetic to the slave owners, and they got reparations. So in Raya Salter, we're going to hear about land in Alabama that is her family's legacy and where we're at with that today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Tiffany Hamilton, the CEO of the White Plains YWCA.
Can you bring it over?
And next we will bring up Raya Salter, who is the founder of the Energy, Justice, Law, and Policy Center. She is also the creator of the Energy Justice Alliance. And I think for setup, maybe we can show Raya's video first.
Now, I apologize if it's too loud or quiet right off the bat. So. Ready?
This is the true story of oil companies stealing the generational wealth, land, and well-being of Black landowners from rural Alabama. My family.
Louis Armstead Johnson and Ada Davis Johnson farmed cotton in Conecuh County, Alabama. That's about 3 hours south of Birmingham, Alabama. In 1939, they purchased land. They wanted to help build a church, a school for the children in the area, and also make sure that their own children would always have a place to live and to return to.
The discovery of major oil deposits and the greedy landlord who followed stole this stream from my great-grandparents. There are hundreds of wells across Conecuh County, with extraction happening right now on our family land. For all this, the heirs of Louis and Ada, our family, have received a pittance for nothing.
How have they done this, you may ask? By illegally abusing the bad Alabama law that allows oil and gas to be developed without the permission of landowners.
There's a long history in Alabama going back to the era of enslavement, of theft, land degradation, and exploitation of Black farmers and Black people. This history is ongoing till today. The oil and gas industry have stolen the generational wealth of the Johnson family, the very people who were once enslaved on the land and sharecropped its cotton, and many other Black families. At the same time, from extraction to flaring to processing of oil and gas, the industry is poisoning the local soil, air, natural habitats, and endangering the water supply. They now plan to further decimate the land in advanced recovery techniques, which will ruin the Johnson property forever. It is time for this story of Conecuh to be told, and for the Johnson family to find justice.
I'm an energy and climate justice attorney and activist. Mr. and Mrs. Ada Lewis and Louis Johnson were my great-grandparents, and Mrs. Mandy Bell Salter was my grandmother. Please support our work to bring justice to our family and other families throughout the area and end the exploitation and degradation. to thank everybody, thank our public officials. I can't thank Tasha enough. It's overwhelming to have this platform to begin to share this story, truly it is. And when I think about Juneteenth and what this story means, and Tasha talked about what it means to be learning about things, I've been on a learning journey about Black land loss and what that means in this country. And as I start to tell this story, I want everybody here to go on this journey with me. I've been in Westchester for about 25 years. In fact, I worked for 3 years right across the street at 72 Warburton back when it was a child care center and some other things with the Graceton Foundation. And I used to bring children to this location all the time. But I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my father's people are from rural Connecticut, Alabama. And this video that I put together, begins to tell that story. But I didn't know. I think we all have, as Black people, some story in our family, right? We've gone back and forth in the summertime to different parts of the South, and we hear stories about, oh, we've got that land, or this thing is happening, but it tends to, at least in my case, be in the background. And I didn't realize that this is exactly how Black land has been stolen for hundreds of years. And so in our case, we had heard about this land, and I'd gone back and forth to visit, as I mentioned. I'd even heard that, there was oil on this land, all these years. But it wasn't until I learned about Black land loss and how really millions and millions of acres have been stolen from Black families, and it's done exactly in this way. They call it heirs property. So as we know, we heard about our grandparents, our great-grandparents. When folks die, in particular in testing, the land goes to all the surviving relatives. That's when the greedy land people move in. Because, and if you're like me, that land went to literally 80 people. And as we know, some folks are still in Alabama, many are in Pittsburgh, California, New York, we're all over the country, and it really hampers our ability to come back and reclaim those rights. And so that's what happened to my family, and that's what I can probably guess is probably happening to folks literally right now. And I appreciate how challenging it is to address it, because frankly, you have to get over even just the emotional issues in terms of family issues, what it means to go back to the South, deal with family that's left. I can say, for example, this land in Connecticut, we understand that where the actual oil well is placed is the wealthy white family, the John Stun family. And we had to have this conversation of, were they our owners? And I think the answer is yes. But as I went to try and research that, it's hard for many reasons. But one of them is, that information isn't necessarily the first stuff people were trying to pass on. As folks were moving on and move into different parts of the country. So it's hard to establish that. And when you look at the slave records, it's hard to even speak about ourselves, but this is the truth, right? When you go, because I'm a research-oriented individual, I bet, that ancestry stuff, I will get on those records. And Alabama has some census records. They talk about who the owners are, but when you're trying to dig in underneath to see who the people who were enslaved, they're just numbers and checks. They're not names. They're not names. So it's very challenging. Anyway, I will stop. Oh, the other thing I will say, the leader talked about storytelling, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I put this video together. So I focus a lot on climate and environmental justice, but through that work, I'm also a member of a group called the Movement for Black Lives, which is an organization that focuses on Black empowerment and liberation, including reparations, climate, economic justice, and of course, police reform. And M4BL seeded me some funds to do a documentary to try and tell this story, to uplift it. So again, I can say thank you so much, Tasha, for being a part of connecting the dots in the climate movement to our Black communities and all marginalized groups, and giving me this also, yes. And also giving me this platform. It's overwhelming how to be able to share this personal family story, but my true hope in telling this story, and yes, it's about climate, it's about oil, it's about land loss, but I want for all of us to kind of take this journey too, because the only way for us to reclaim what's left is if we're willing to share these stories, connect with our family. It's hard, it's emotional. But it's something that, work that I know we can do together. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Raya, for sharing your family stories. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, bless your hearts. The same energy I get from you all will be the same energy I put into this 7 minutes to give you some history. Good morning. There we go. Very good. As mentioned, my name is Tiffany Hamilton, and I serve as the CEO of the YWCA of White Plains and Central Westchester. Thank you to Westchester Women's Agenda. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for all the nonprofits that are coming together to make sure that you all continue to host this space to talk about Freedom Day, Liberation Day, Juneteenth. And so my ask, the request was for me to talk about the YW leading up to Freedom School, but I would be remiss to talk specifically about that if I didn't give the history. And before giving that history, I also have to give a shout out that the things that I'm speaking about holds true to the YWCA of Yonkers as well. So my sister CEO, Charlie Knight, is arm in arm, hand in hand with me in doing this work in our respective areas. And so although the YWCA was founded in 1850, it wasn't until 1930 that the YWCA recognized that not all women were treated equal and encouraged in associations to speak out against racial violence, support interracial cooperation, oppose segregation, and work for basic civil rights. And while we have proudly been ahead of the game of that conversation, being vocal early about racial justice and civil rights, it's important to understand that our body, the YWCAs were often segregated in its early years because of state laws and cultural norms. In many towns and cities, the YWCAs were founded, one for Black women and one for white women. And you can see throughout our country, the YWCAs founded for Black women often held the name the Phyllis Wheatley YWCA. Hello, somebody. Phyllis Wheatley, who in 1773 became the first Black woman to become a published writer. This history is critically important when we talk about the work that we do every day in our communities. These branches, the Phyllis Wheatley YWCAs, were critical spaces and places for Black women to have the safety to learn, to live, and pursue an American dream that did not have them in mind in its conception. In 1946, the YWCA established an interracial charter that called for integration of the existing racially segregated YWCAs. Many were the first in their community to integrate an institution, period, point blank. For most YWCAs, integration was a process. For example, in Asheville, North Carolina, first the board of directors was integrated, then its programs, then its membership, and then finally families were allowed to join. See, when we talk about our mission of eliminating racism and empowering women, it's important to understand that history, to understand the WHY, why behind the YW work. In 1965, the YWCA USA Office of Racial Justice was established. The first director of that office was Dr. Dorothy Irene Height. And to all the Deltas in the room, I know you shifted right? The Office of Racial Justice was established under her leadership, and the National Board invested about $200,000 to support that. And there were students on college campuses affiliated with YWCAs who at that time were opposing apartheid in South Africa and urging the National Board to investigate its investment. Sounds familiar? Yes. College students. Let me keep my job. And so then in 1971, the YWCA of White Plains and Central Westchester sent a memo to all of its members. This is in 1971, right? 1971, City of White Plains, all members
by the YWCA, September 1971. Racism in America was founded by whites, perpetuated by whites, and exists because of whites. It's a rare thing for an institution to realize that they have been perpetuating racism consciously or unconsciously, but nevertheless to say that it does exist. The National YWCA has done such a thing and has dedicated for a period of 3 years, that's what, 1968, its #1 imperative to eliminate racism wherever it exists by any means necessary. Our local YWCA has also adopted this imperative and has started to work on an action audit for change. The objective of this audit is to seek out, evaluate data about racism in institutional structures, policies, practices, and patterns of behavior, to plan and implement changes in racist institutional behavior, to maximize YWCA effectiveness in breaking the web of institutional racism and affecting change in the society. Our YWCA desperately needs our help if this imperative is to become a reality. If change is to come about in this racist society, I am sure that we agree that it will be through the institutions. It continues, but that is a memo sent to all members from the YWCA of White Plains and Central Westchester to all of its members. So fast forward to 2021, the birth of the Center for Racial Equity. Many community members came together to birth this during a time that the country was feeling deep unrest. So when people ask me, Tiffany, why do you need funding for the Center for Racial Equity? It's so that we can give birth to programs like the Children's Defense Fund and Freedom School. When we think about the Center for Racial Equity, its founding was its commitment to this county to ensure the presence of, advocacy for, and support of advancing an agenda that reduces the representation of women and people of color at the margins. You fast forward to 2022 when you get its first Black CEO leading this organization, and in 2024 we will launch the first ever YWCA Freedom School in partnership with the National Children's Defense Fund. You may be asking, what is Freedom School? I'm glad you asked, even if you didn't. So the National Children's Defense Fund Freedom School has its origin in Mississippi Freedom Summer Project of 1964. That was the safe place where Black folks could come learn and lead and believe and become in the presence of being the fullness of themselves. And so to be able to offer a 6-week experience to help reduce to help increase reading literacy, to help increase cultural competency in a multicultural environment that layers in not only the work that we're doing with those children, but we have servant leader interns who are undergraduate students of color from the city of White Plains who are coming back to pour into these young people. It's a partnership with a faith-based institution that will be housing the children's the YWCA Freedom School, simply because it centers community in the liberation of these young minds. It centers textbooks where they see themselves, where they hear their stories, where they learn their stories and they're empowered by their stories. It centers that Black and brown minds matter, and freedom, in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, your freedom is directly shackled and chained to mine. And until I am free, none of us are free. And so when we think about Freedom School, it allows us to counteract the noise of rewriting history. It allows us to counteract the attempts to erase history in school districts that are in Westchester County. Hello, somebody. So while we're sitting here today, talking about the very important concept of reparations. Reparations is in your hands because you're sitting in rooms and places and spaces where you can talk to people about eradicating policies and practices that continuously leave people at the margins, leave them unpromoted in workspaces, that doesn't allow them the economic equity and freedom to deal with the financial trauma that was established 400 plus years ago. So when we talk about the work that we do to eliminate racism, empower women, and why reparations is important to me, reparations is not just a funding structure. And I'll leave you with this quote from Dr. Winbush's Should America Pay? Slavery and the Raging Debate on Reparations. One of the things we know to be true, powerful people never educate powerless people in the strategy of taking their power away from them. So with that, I'll take my seat and say that the power belongs to the people. Thank you.
I'm going to ask for one more round of applause for these two women. All power to the people. I would now like to bring up Reverend Kim McNair. I would like to bring up Reverend Kim for the call to action.
There are people in this country who are, and maybe even down the road, who are not happy about the fact that we're here today. In fact, they are, we're live streaming, right? Okay. They're pissed off about this. And I would also say that there are probably more than a few of those folks who are in Galveston, where this celebration was born, who wish that we weren't here. The very celebration that erupted out of an action in Galveston has spread across the country, coast to coast, and we're celebrating freedom. We're calling this Freedom Day today, and they're not happy about it. I actually don't care that they're not happy about it because their anger can't change history. History is, history was, and history will be. I live by a different principle. I live by the anti-racist principle of understanding from history, because when you understand history, that allows you to move forward to create a more humane present and future. Galveston happened in June, but in March 1865, months before the march into Galveston, Congress established the Freedmen's Bureau. How many of you have heard of the Freedmen's Bureau? And see, that's not good, because every hand in the room should be raised. So we're going to get to why every hand needs to be raised in the call to action I'm going to give you. But the Freedom's Bureau was established to provide the formerly enslaved with basic necessities. Basic necessities. Housing, clothing, food, water, the basic necessities they needed to live, considering their former condition in the former Confederate States. But local bureau offices were supposed to be the central community places for people to access these items. People were going there to register to vote. In 1865, to register to vote, okay. Verify labor contracts between formerly enslaved and their employers. But contracts between them to negotiate what should have been theirs for all the time, for all the time that they had worked. Provide food and medical care, establish schools, perform marriages. The Bureau was set up to help people establish their lives. But those offices became targets for racist violence. White people in the South saw the Bureau as an insult to them. They felt entitled to the benefits that were being accorded to people who were formerly enslaved. And so what did they do? They burned down schools. They attacked children. They attacked teachers. There was a wave of violence in response to the government's effort. In response to the government's efforts. In response to the government's efforts to make sure that people who were formerly enslaved were treated as equal citizens. Now, people may think of reparations as giving something away. And we hear that, right? You can't give my stuff away. But to think of reparations as simply giving something away only reinforces the ideas of scarcity. And it cements in the minds of some people this fear that they have to protect, they have to hoard, they have to maintain what is theirs, which they did not really earn if they would look at their own history. So here's a call to action. Check your history. Look at who and whose you you are. Think about what are the stories that your family has passed down to you? And what are the holes in some of those stories? Excavate your history. That's your call. Learn your history, and don't learn it and sit on it. Teach your children well. Check your bookshelf. What's on your bookshelf? Your virtual or real bookshelf? What's on your children's bookshelves? What are the stories that you're not telling them because you may feel shame or embarrassment? Let me tell you something. My paid best friend and I meet every other Saturday, and she tells me I don't have to be afraid of my shame. Your shame cannot hurt you. That's your call, because when you know better, you will do better. And knowing your true history and not shrinking away from the history that is in this country. We are standing in history. Has anyone here been hurt? Do you feel, are you afraid to be here? So it kind of feels like being in the midst of our history is an okay place to be. That's my only call to action, is know your history, tell your history, embrace your history, and use that to build a different house. Because we didn't build the house that we're living in right now, to quote Dr. Kimberly Richards. We didn't build this house. What we have to do is stop furnishing it and create a different house for us to live in. That's my call. And I'm going to do it.
Our program is coming to a close. And we're going to tour the museum. I want to let you know that the speaker bios are in the back of your program. You can take out your phone and scan the QR code and learn about our wonderful speakers that spoke today. I want to thank everyone who came today. I want to especially thank Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Chief Executive Officer Tiffany Hamilton, Founder, Executive Director, and Climate Auntie Raya Salter. Follow her on Instagram. And I'm just gonna name the Juneteenth members and ask you to please stand. Lisa Copeland, Dahlia Dassar, Carla Horton, Cindy Canisher, Elisa Keston, Leslie Mazzata, Kim McNair, Lisa Nero, Anitra Guzman Santana, Michelle Shivers, Monica Spears, and myself. I owe you a great debt of gratitude. So on your programs, you can also see the members of the Public Policy Committee. Juneteenth is a policy initiative all the way through. And we are fortunate enough to be able to tour this wonderful, wonderful facility. Each room has a different aspect of the stories of the Phillips family who married the Van Cortlands, and they owned land from the Bronx to Albany. They were extremely wealthy. They were the 1% of our time. So please go learn about them. We also want to invite you to join the Westchester Women's Agenda. And we look forward to speaking more about this policy initiative of repair. So there's equality, there's equity, there's justice, and then there's repair. And I just want to thank everyone for coming this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.